Right, Omar Rava. Right, Omar Rava. Rav Chov Tes Amar Aleph, about 8 lines down, right by the, right after the Tuch Tuch. So the last thing we said, I just heard a commercial this morning about the power of beets, how it's good for the heart, and they're selling all these beet superfood pills, and sure enough, beets are good for the heart, they're good for the eyes, good for the stomach, and that's if you cook them very well. Okay, so that's what we're up to. Amar Rava, Chov Tes Amar Aleph. Hareini kiben azai b'shuka tveria. So this is a famous expression, and ironically, as rare as it is for Rava, I'm not sure if he says this anyplace else. More here kedushin chav. A couple of places we quote this statement, this reference of Hareini kiben azai b'shuka tveria. I am like Ben Azai. I'm so mentally clear. I'm so mentally sharp, like Ben Azai was in the marketplace of Tveria. So I guess Rava it wasn't a bragging thing to say, but it was more of a point of this is I'm ready to take on any challenge because I feel very clear, mentally clear. So look at Rashi, and therefore hit me with your best question. Basically, that's what he was saying. Yuma bedicha have le Rava. Okay, I guess it was a happy day for Rava, some kind of a joyous, laughing day. That's what it seems. A bedicha for amaluhu l'tamidav hashta tzili datoi. I'm now, because I guess of the simcha, my mind is very clear. And I'm ready to answer with sharpness. Anybody who asks me anything, I'm ready to answer. Like Ben Azai shedarish b'shukat verya, where he was darshaning in the marketplace of Tiberia. There was nobody as sharp and able to uproot mountains intellectually like Ben Azai was. And he would say, he made a statement that all of the wise people in Israel are like the peels of an onion compared to me, except for this one exception. Don't remember right now who that exception was, but it's a Gemara in Bechiris. Okay, fine. Let me just see here. Gilyon Ashas, I am Bechiris. Okay, fine. So, for some reason I think it's Rabbi Akiva, but I wouldn't be sure. So I'm not sure. So anyway, but the point is that he makes this statement, and this is. I'm not saying that it didn't work out that well for him because he made the statement. I didn't see anybody say that, so I wouldn't be that bold. But let's see how it goes. He makes a statement that hit me with your best question because I'm ready to rip. So let's see what happens. So Amalei Ahum Rabbanon L'Rava. So amazingly enough, here you're ready to roll. It seemed like the question was more of a technical question than anything else. But Tapuchim Bekama, when you're making an Erev with apples, how many apples do you have to use to qualify as a valid Erev? Because basically we spoke about food for 2 meals. So what's the shear when it comes to apples and an Erev? In a Erev Tchumen, Erev Chatzeros, whatever you're making there. So, Amalei. So instead of answering the question, as a Jew, he answered the question with a question. He says, Amalei, Vichima Arvim B'tapuchim. Since when are you allowed to make an Erev with apples? Who says it's valid? Now, Maisa, we do end up that they are valid, so the question is this, was he just trying to sharpen the minds of the people who he was with, or was it the different pshatim? It was the l'chidudei ba'alma that he did this and sort of wanted to see how much they knew, or maybe it was a question of wild apples. Other people say it was about the apples that are not normally eaten during the meal. They're more of a dessert food, so maybe that's why. But different pshatim as to what exactly Rava did, what was he meaning when he said V'chima Arvim B'tapuchim? But the Gemara comes back at him and says V'lo. So if you learn they were sharpening, just doing it to sharpen them, then nothing is really problematic. But if you learn the other ways, it's really he's being sort of shot down here right after being very assertive that he's ready to hit it, to deal with any question. And now seems like, according to the other two pshatim, the Mishnah seems to knock him out. So let's see, velo and Rava. What are you saying? You can't use apples for an eruv? Well, it's not. What do you mean you can't use apples for an eruv? It says in the Mishnah, all foods are able to combine to passel a kohen who is no longer able to eat truma by eating a chatzi pras of tamei dika food. When you have that shear, that passels you from eating truma. Even though normally food doesn't make a human being a Jew tamei, in this case, as a chumrah d'rabbanan, in the areas of truma, we will passel you. Okay, that's one halacha. The foods combined for that purpose. Those foods, different foods can combine for the share of 2 meals, le'erev, for the purpose of making an erev. Ukebeya l'tamet tumas ochlin, and they combine for the share beya, which to metamet tumas ochlin, which is a share of how much food you need to contaminate another food. Then the share is a beya. So even though you don't have a whole item, you don't have 2 meals of one item. You want to combine different items to make that shear, right? That's all for whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's the erev, whether it's the beya, whether it's the chatzi pras. These are all they're all able to be combined. So Dumar wants to know, okay, I mean, where do you see apples here? What's the apples? Where is the question that you're asking on Rava from this Mishnah? If you want to tell me, because it says the word kol ha'eichlin, and kol ha'eichlin sounds like it means all, right? And all means all, including apples. And it says erev, and Rava just asserted that apples don't work for an erev. If that's the basis of your attack, really. So one more time, if you're going to tell me that the languages says all foods, and these are certainly foods, apples are foods, no question about that, really, but is that a basis to a knockoff Rava and to prove that apples are valid for an Erev? Right? We just went through this. Rabbi Yochanan said you can't learn from general rules. Even when the word chutz is said, which in this case, it doesn't have the word chutz, but even there you can't learn from the word chutz. So, what kind of inference and what kind of basis do you want to use based on the kol? That can't be your basis, because kol doesn't mean everything and no exceptions. It could certainly be exceptions. But rather, the message is, it says enough food for 2 meals. Le'erev, for the purpose of making an erev, all foods can combine. And they combine to form a beya for the purposes of contaminating food. Well, for the food, is there any shilah that apples are in? There's no shilah. Everyone will say, when it comes to the aspect of tumah, for sure, in this last point, apples are in. There's no way to argue that apples should be out. V'halinami and b'nei tumas ochlin, and these certainly are able to contaminate through the mechanism of tumas ochlin. Now, if they're able to do that, and you put these 2 halachas together, right, one after another, the laws of tumas ochlin and the laws of erev, so that you have to say the 2 things are governed by the same rules. Since apples are in the last category, apples have to be in the middle category, thereby proving that apples are able to make an erev, and thereby sort of knocking out Rava. So he might have had other things that went right that day, but this didn't go so well, this particular little back and forth. Okay, again, unless you said that he was just trying to sharpen the students and he knew the answer and he was just agreeing with the answer. Okay, let's see Rashi. Lifsol es hagvia imachal ochlen tmeim. If a kohen eats tamadika food, even though tamadika food, we know the rules of tumah, and we know that food is at best a rishon, and under normal circumstances, and as a rishon, it can't be tamid adam, which only can be tamid through an av. So once you get to the rishon level, you're done dealing with man. Okay, as far as contaminating a man, yet the loch is, if you eat a pras worth, then that's going to make you tummy nonetheless regarding certain things. So one more time, im ochal ochlen tamein, if he eats tamadig of food, top of Rashi, afpi she'ein ochel matamo, even though food doesn't only contaminate a man b'maga through the touch, yochal minayu chatzi pras, if he eats from it a half a pras, the hanu shnei beits, and that's 2 eggs worth, nifsal gufay milechol b'truma. His body now becomes ineligible to be eating truma. Because like we learn later on, they'll come on, okay, on Daf Pei Beis. That can't be Pirkin. Okay, that's okay. It's Pirkin sounds like our Perk. Dikrambin Pirkin. They'll come on. Okay, v'chatzi chetzia lifsol segvia, and a half to passel the body. Chetzia hainu pras. And half of it is a pras, loshen prusa, v'chatzi chetzainu chatzi pras. So a quarter of a pras is nifsal gufa milechol b'tshuma. So again, chatzi pras is 2 eggs. I guess so half of a chatzi pras is 1 egg. Okay, so with a kolach I'll give you a chatzi pras. Okay, so I'm not sure. Okay, chatzi pras. Okay, a pras is a half of a pras. Okay, fine. It's I guess a quarter of a pras. Fine. Okay, so and a pras is 4 beitzim. So basically, it's 1 egg's worth because a pras is 4 beitzim, chatzi pras is 2 beitzim, and this is a chatzi, half of a chatzi pras. When it comes to food, making you tamei, pras, pras. Okay, because a pras already is a half. A pras is already a half. Okay, so a pras is a half of what? I guess that's a full share of. Was that maybe so? It's 8. So a pras is 4, but so the terror is a bigger share. A pras is 4, chatzi pras is 2. So the pras is 4. That means the full share is 8. I'm not because pras by definition means a half of a shear. So chatzi pras is a quarter of a shear. Okay, fine. So that can't be. So bottom line is we've proven Rava wrong in terms of his assertion that you cannot use apples for an eruv. Okay, so let's go weiter. Amar of Nachman. V'kama. So bottom line is, so how many apples do you have to use for the eruv? So Amar of Nachman, tapuchim bekav. So if you're using apples to make an eruv, you got to use a kav's worth. Okay. Kav, yeah, I forgot the exact, what is it? Yeah, it's a measure. Okay, I'm trying to remember what it was, but I can't remember exactly. What?
That's Lugan.
Okay, yeah, which I'm not sure if it helps us too much.
1.5 to 2.6 quarts.
Okay, that's fine. 1.5 to that's a pretty big area, but 1.5 to 2.6 quarts. Okay. Thank you, Art Scroll. Okay, so Meisvei Rav Shimon Elazar Omer. So let me ask you a question. You're telling me that a kav is a shear for how many apples you need to put into an eruv to validate the eruv. The shear is a kav. So Meisvei, let me ask you a question. Shimon Elazar Omer. Shimon Elazar says, and that's a pretty big measure. A kav is pretty big. So let me attack that measure from this brisa. Shimon Elazar Omer. Uchla tavlin. An uchla worth of tavlin, a very small amount of spices, v'litra yerek, or a litra's worth of yerek, which is probably, again, I think close to a quart. V'asara egoizim, 10 nuts, chamisha farsakin, 5 peaches, u'shnei rimainim, and 2 pomegranates, v'esrig echad, and 1 esrig. That's, if you combine that is that's not about Erev, this is about Meiser Ani. That this is of these various foods. That's the minimum amount you need to give to qualify as a valid gift to an ani when you're giving a meiser ani. So even though there might not have been a set shear, but the Rabbanan came along and said when you're giving a meiser ani in years 3 and 6, you need to give a significant amount, which is like a normal portion. So 5 peaches and 2 pomegranates, 1 esrig. Okay, the Omar Gursik Bar Dori Bishmei Derav Menashe, and Gursik Bar Dori said the name of Menashe Bar Shaguvli Bishmei Derav. Okay, these are newer names we're not that familiar with, but back to the name of Rav, so it shows you how many Talmidim Rav had. Gursik Bar Dori, the name of Menashe Bar Shaguvli said the name of Rav V'chein Le'erev. Okay, so the same amount that you need to give to an ani to fulfill the mitzvah of Meiser Ani is the same amount that you have to give if you were putting it in a basket to make an Erev. That's how many you would need. So how many peaches would you need? You need 5. Vahani nami laviki afarsaki. So why wouldn't apples be in the same category as peaches? And you need 5 peaches. So why do you tell me you need a kav? Kav is like that's a shtickle going overboard. So what's the deal? And the answer is you cannot compare apples to peaches. Okay, hani chashivi vani lo chashivi. Apples are not considered a chashiv of food, and peaches are, and as such, you don't need as many peaches to get to a certain threshold as you do apples of chashivus. Okay, fine. Okay, did we leave out a Rashi? Yeah. So okay, let's catch up on the Rashis here. El Mishum Detani. That goes back on the Tani Mazon Shei Sudas Erev. Right. So the answer was that since the proximity of the laws of the Erev together with the laws of Tumas Ochlin. So let's do that Rashi. El Mishum Detani Erev Dumi de Tumas Ochlin. Since there's the Mishnah, the Brisa puts these two together in the same halacha, the mashba kol shematama tumas ochlin. The message is anything which is in the category of being able to contaminate on the tumas ochlin level. Yesh ba mozon shtei sudos chazi le'erev. Kol shematama tumas ochlin. Okay, anything that's able to do that, to contaminate an ochlin. Yesh ba mozon shtei sudos chazi le'erev. Okay, that if it has enough to have a meal. 2 meals for a person, that would be the shear for Erev as well. The 2 things seem to segue that way. And certainly tapuchim are in the category of being able to contaminate. There's certainly food. There's no question that tapuach is in the food category. So if they're able to be in that halacha of being able to render you food tameh, they're also able to be in the halacha of making an Erev with them as long as they have the share of 2 sudas. So that's how Rava was disproven. Okay, then we asked how much. So we know that, right, in other words, we asked the question originally, how much apples? We got Rava's come back. What do you mean apples? How do you know apples can be in an Erev altogether? We've proven that they can be in the Erev, and now we want to know how much, and Rav Nachman is the one who answered the Kav. The only thing is, that we're showing Rav Shimon Elazar in the Brisa Meiser Ani. This Brisa Rashi says is referring to Meiser Ani. Shemachalkul Aniyim Harbe Alagorin Koi. Okay, that you're giving out to many Aniyim who are standing by the threshing floor. Ukamar, and the Brisa says Ein Peichsin Ani Begarin Mahai Shir. When you're giving out and distributing to the Aniyim at the Gorin, you can't have less than this amount. Ksiv Mesata Levi Lagerli Yosalamana, Batzamachilav in Asina. It sounds like it's actually a drasha. Maybe they talk about whether it's an asmacht or not, but it sounds like it needs to be a real giving, and a giving implies some level of significance, and this is a sheer of significance. So uchla shmini shabalitra, an uchla which is a measurement an eighth of a litra hulug, and a litra is the same as a lug, which is about, like we said, 17 ounces, because revius is about 4 ounces, so a lug is 4 reviuses, and it's about That's that. V'chein erev, and the same thing is true for an erev. The chelik ani begarin nami mazon shtei sudos sikadam alakaman. Okay, so for an erev, the shear is because the shear of, what are you giving the ani? When you're giving him these things, you're giving him the shear of two meals. That's why we came up with this shear. It wasn't just willy-nilly, it was this what's called the chashuv amount to give him enough for 2 meals. So you see that and that's the exact same shear as Eruv. So when it comes to peaches, it's 5. So why wouldn't you say it's 5 here for the Vahaninami Levi Kafarsakin? Why do you need a calf's worth of apples? It should be enough to have 5 apples, which is enough to, I guess, to combine, with other things to make for a meal. It's a normal amount for 2 meals, not for 2 meals. And the answer is no, it's not the same level, because a farsika chashivi. Raminal kamon koshu lift on kadei lechabo. Okay, anything that you would dip with it in order to eat with your bread. Amalav mamish sudos lavi kula sudos mina binon. It isn't like you need of each item enough for 2 meals, because then you're talking about 10 meals. We're talking about combining when you're dipping with the bread and you're having this stuff with it. That's what you would call a meal. But it's not a standalone meal from just one item. Ella kol midi lefum chashivusa. So every item, depending on how chashiv that item is, that's how much you would need. Im lifton. If you're using it like as a side dish, adam rogil lafes basapas, that you're dipping the bread into this as a side dish for your main meal, which is essentially the bread. Shurk de lafes basapas l'shtei sudos says, how much of it would you eat together with your bread to during 2 meals? And if it's sort of something that you would, I guess, come sort of finish the meal with, sort of wipe the meal away, sort of at the end, that then the amount of 2 is what you need for that. So it's not like this is the only thing you're eating, but rather it's what you're doing with this food as part of a meal. What would be the normal amount of 2 sudas worth? So bottom line is, you're going to eat, since the item is more chashiv, it's not rogel for you to eat more than 5 peaches over a 2 meal period, but it is, but when it comes to apples, it could be they argue that by apples it's not enough. Since it's not chashiv, you need enough apples to last independently for 2 meals. Because it's not the kind of thing that you would have for with the bread. So I think that's how they want to learn. So the point is that since it's not as chashuv, it's a different shear. It's not so much the kind of item that you would have with your bread as much. So if you're going to use it for an eruv, then you gotta jack up the amount to 10. Not 10 apples, whatever. Not enough for a kav, which is more than 5 apples. Okay, so that takes care of apples. So we're sort of done with that. Let's see. Rav Yosef, back to the Gemara, 3rd wide line. Shorele more l'Rav Menashe bar Sheguvli. Okay, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu should forgive Rav Menashe bar Sheguvli. Okay. Why? Because I quoted Rav as referring to the Mishnah, Vu Amra Abraisa, and yet he made the mistake of attaching Rav to a Braisa. Because remember we said he quoted Rav, right? That v'chein le'erev, right? Right? Those were the words. The second wide line that he quoted these Amoraim, and it went back. These Amoraim quoted Rav that the shurim that we said about all these things, that the ochla for the tavlin, the lutra for the yerek, the 10 nuts, the 5 peaches, okay, that would all, Rav said, would also apply. Those are the same shurim that apply to an eruv. So that according to those Amoraim, the statement of Rav was referring to a brisa. But Hashem should forgive them because they quoted Rav in the wrong way. Because I know the truth, and I'm telling you that you should quote him connected to a Mishnah. Okay? And he knows that Rav would have wanted this quote to be not v'chein le'erev referring to this Mishnah, but v'chein le'erev referring to, not referring to the Brisa, but rather v'chein le'erev referring to the Mishnah. What Mishnah does Rav Yosef want Rav quoted regarding? As opposed to the Brisa, the Tan. So let's learn this Mishnah, and we'll see what Rav really meant when he said v'chein le'erev, or at least If he didn't mean it, if he didn't say it, we're extrapolating from Rav that this is what should have been quoted. And it should have been connected to this particular source as opposed to the earlier source. The Tanan, because it says in Mishnah, Ein Peichsin La'ani Begairin, as you're giving out the Meiser Ani on the threshing floor to the Ani, you can't give less Mechatzi Kav Chitin from a half a Kav of Chitin, the Kav Sa'orin, and a Kav's worth of barley. Rav Meir says it's a little too much. Okay, Chatzi Kav Sa'orin. Barley does not need a Kav. Barley is fine with a half a Kav. V'kav v'chatzi kusmin, and 1.5 kavim of spelt, v'kav goros, and a kav of dried figs, a mana dvela, or a mana's worth, which is a solid measurement, a weight measurement of a dvela, of pressed figs. Okay, this is a Mishnah going through different amounts for Maiserani. Rekiva Omer pras. Okay, Rabbi Kiva says no. For the dvela, Omana dvela is as pras, half of that. Okay, it seems like he's going on the dvela, where you only need half of that portion as opposed to a full mana. V'chatzi lug yayin. The Mishnah continues, and when it comes to wine, if you're giving out wine to an ani, it's a half of a lug of wine. Rabbi Kiva Omer, which is 2 reviuses. Rabbi Kiva Omer revius. Rabbi Kiva cuts that in half and says, no, you don't need a full revius. You don't need a full half a lug. You need even a quarter of a lug is fine. He cuts that in half. The Mishnah continues, Urviyah Shemen, and about 4 ounces of oil, Rekiva Omer Shminis. He cuts that in half. So Rabbi Kiva keeps chopping all of these statements of the Mishnah in half, and all you need is an eighth of Revius as opposed, an eighth of a lug as opposed to Revius of a lug. V'shakol haperos, and what about all other fruits? Amar b'shol, did you by accident tap the mute button to go off? Michael?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so Abishol, Amar Abishol, what about other fruits? Abishol says, the amount of fruits you would need to sell to be able to buy with the money food for 2 meals, that's how much fruit you give to the fellow who's coming to collect as an ani at the threshing floor. And on this Mishnah, as opposed to the other Mishnah, and the same rules of engagement that apply here of how much you need to give the ani apply to the Erev as well. So Rav Yosef is saying, please forgive my wonderful counterparts Amoraim who quoted Rav as referring to the Mishnah. Rav is to the Brisa. I maintain that Rav should be quoted here, and on this he said v'chein le'erev. Well, which maybe you're thinking the same thing. Like, what's the big deal? I mean, Mishnah, Bryce, it's both Baruch Hashem, good sources. The two things don't even seem to argue. So, my ume, the high mehach. Like, what are you getting so bent out of shape for? Like, what's the difference? They don't even argue. It's they're both Tanoic sources. So, what's the big deal if you quote the Bryce as opposed to the Mishnah? They have to get forgiveness from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what exactly is the preference? Because if it's because you don't like the whole spice thing, you don't like the fact that spices could be used for an Erev, when tavlin are not able to be eaten as is, right? Spices are used to add to food. They're not a food unto itself. So maybe you're saying when it comes to Erev, that's a criteria that you can't ignore, and that's why he doesn't want a Rav going on a Mishnah which is not halachically on a price which is not halachically acceptable. I mean, that could be a good reason. Well, milo katani chitnu sarid. I mean, if that's your problem, then the Mishnah should be a problem too. Because if you want to use that kind of reasoning, what about wheat and barley? Are you allowed to use wheat and barley, stalks of wheat and barley to the grain itself before you make it into bread? You're allowed to use that for an Erev? He says wheat and barley also not edible. Who plucks off wheat and starts eating it? Right, so that can't be the factor, because if that was a factor, you wouldn't like it on the Mishnah either. So what exactly is your problem? Ela mishum niktani chatzi lug yayin. The answer is because it says a half of a lug of wine is the shear before Rabbi Kiva chopped it down to a quarter. V'marav ma'arvin b'shtei revios. Okay, and Rav happened to say that the exact same thing, that you make an Erev on 2 reviuses, shal yayin. So if Rav finds a Mishnah that supports his halacha, that you have to have this amount, which is a significant amount, then you want that statement to be connected to that halacha, because that would support Rav's basic assertion. So one more time. So mida be'inon kuli hai, since you need that much, shma mino ki amarav v'chein erev ha'masis and kamar shma mino. So clearly that was the message. That was the indication that since Rav finds support from the from the Mishnah, which is a little bit funny. So if it's a Mishnah, like why don't you say? It's one thing a Bryce, you want to say something and, you don't quote the Bryce because maybe they know the Bryce, but he knew the Mishnah, so he likes the support from the Mishnah. Just say we follow like that Mishnah, but whatever, that's a side issue. But clearly that would be the logic to connect Rav to the Mishnah so that he would have from this Mishnah support to his halacha of how much wine you need to make an Erev, and the answer would be 2 revius, so about 8 ounces. Okay, let's catch up on the Rashis here. Shorlei l'morei yim choloi adonai al davazeh Rav Menashe. So please forgive. Hakadosh Baruch Hu should forgive him. What's the little base? Yim choloi hamokom. Okay, changes it. Hakadosh Baruch Hu should forgive him on this matter for Rav Menashe for quoting Rav incorrectly. When Rav said the words v'chein le'erev ha'masisin kufar shvazol, like we're about to explain, I learned him on the Mishnah. V'hu agmrei l'gorsik bar dori abraisa, and he quoted Gorsik bar dori, name of Rav, to referring to a brisa, and I don't feel that's the right thing to do. See, even though it's a seemingly subtle point, I guess he's just making it more dramatic to say Kadosh Baruch Hu should be meichel him to indicate that it is a significant issue. If you have a lot of stuff to give away, and there are a bunch of aniyim lined up, around the block to collect the food, and he wants to give each one, don't give less than this year than a sina be'inon, because you need to be giving a giving. Okay, and it's got to be called a giving, and a giving needs to be a chashuv amount. If you have a small amount that you don't have a lot, then you just put it out there and say, may the best man win. Hopefully they weren't fighting too much. But if you have a significant enough to give each one what they need, then you would give each one a chashuv amount, which is a share of 2 sudos. So michatzi kav chitin, v'im sa'irin kav. Okay, so if it's wheat, it's a half of a kav, and if it's iron, it's a full kav. From kusman kav and if it's a spelt, then it's a kav and a half. Devela lachash drossen beigol karlahu devela. After they press it in the in that cake, the roundish cake, it's called an devela. V'shuvena mocha b'mida el mishkol, and at that point, it no longer gets to be a weight. It doesn't get to be a volume measurement, but it gets to be a weight measurement. So mana is weight, and the other ones were volume. So once it gets to be a dvela, then you go with the weight. Okay, pras is a chatzi mana. Pras is a chatzi mana. So that's the word I was looking for. Okay, finally I found it. So pras means a half. Half of what? Half of a mana. We said a mana was about. What do you say? I think it's 17 ounces or something. Okay, so that's the Mishnah. So we went through the Mishnah, we had the Bryce, and now we went through the Mishnah, and the Gemara wants to know, like, at the end of the day, like, what exactly is the big deal? Okay, Umay Umadahai Mehach, Dikbid Rav Yosef, Rav Menashe, what's Rav Yosef getting so all psyched out about this whole situation? Amar Bryce, B'may Da'ayim Asisin, again, one second, Dikbid Rav Yosef, Rav Menashe, Amar Abraisa, That when he said it's going on the brisa, why does that get you so upset? But my daimas, he's no Iri brisa. They're not talking about the same issues. There's no steer between them. Hani shirayu bachi, hani shirai bachi. Each one's talking about different things. Like what's the diff? Like at the end of the day, it's a legitimate statement. It's on the same context, and all he's saying is v'chein le'erivs. Like what exactly is the problem? Well, if you're going to argue that it's because of the spices issue, lav b'nei achila ninu, Srei Rav Yosef de'ema arvin behen hilkach v'chein le'eriv lav alo itmar. It could not have been v'chein le'eriv referring to the brice of wheat and barley, because wheat and barley, of spices, because spices are not edible, and Rav Yosef did not want any statement of Rav regarding Erev to be connected to anything which is not edible. Is that what bothered you? Well, that can't be, because wheat and barley is also not edible, and yet you're very comfortable having the Chayin Le'erev work on the Mishnah, which is referring to wheat and barley, which is not edible. So what's the deal? What exactly bothered you? So it's not what bothered me, it's what excited me. It's what I wanted to connect Rav to. Ella, next Rashi, third wide line, Ella Mishum, the Tani Chati Lug Yayin. That's a 2 revios deal, a half a lug. Rav ups the ante of what you need for the sheer Erev of wine. Okay, and we see that Rav said, we know that Rav holds that by Erev it's the same way. The Mishnah upped the ante when it comes to Meiser Ani, that you need 2 revios of wine to give to the ani as a legitimate giving, and so Rav would have wanted to say v'chein le'erev. I'm not sure that answers my question. My question wasn't a question, because I said why didn't you just quote the Mishnah, because the Mishnah is talking about Meiser Ani and Rav is referring to an erev, so that takes care of that. So that's not a problem. So he needed to say v'chein le'erev, and the same shear is true when it comes to the Erev. Okay, that you need 2, and that's Rav's novelty. And Rav Yosef wanted to connect that novelty to the Mishnah in a proper way. So, so Tosas points out that it's not even like the Gemara is not really saying that for sure Rav said it on the Mishnah. All the Gemara is really saying, the Rav Yosef is really saying, is that if you're going to quote Rav about v'chein le'erev, do it in a place where Rav would have wanted you to do it. That's really more the issue, as opposed to what did Rav actually say it about. Because that Rav Yosef is not really proving historically what did he say it on. He might have said it on the Brisa for all we know, but we want to say it on the Mishnah to be able to support Rav's initial halacha and his novelty of 2 lugin, of 2 reviuses. Okay, fine. So Amamar umazon shtei sudos le'erev. Okay, so one of the things we said is when it comes to food, you need 2 sudos for the erev. So he says, some Rav Yosef Lameimar, Adik a Suda Mehai, Suda Mehai. Rav Yosef thought to say that when we talk about the idea of 2 sudos, each item needs to be enough for 2 sudos. No, and the Gemara says no. Rabba filu mechsel shlish revia. Rabba says don't make that mistake. No, even if it's you have it from each item enough for a quarter or a half of a quarter or a third, whatever it might be, that's good enough as long as they combine for 2 sudas. You don't need from each item 2 sudas, but the combination is all you need. And usuda mehai. One more Rashi. Beis ochlim etzarfen le'erev. 2 foods are able to combine for the Erev. Avol gimel v'daled the lekes suda mikol chad loy. But if you need it for 3 or 4, right? That's what Rav Yosef thought, that you need enough of each thing for 2 sudos, and now he's saying no, it's even for Shlish Revia, even that would work, as long as you can add other things along with it, that would be good enough. I'll pick this up tomorrow.